Jalapeno, hello! Welcome to Food Literacy Center's cooking demo for pesto and greens pizza. You are gonna love this recipe. I make this at my house about once a week. It is so good. Greens are extremely great for your health. Your body loves eating them. But if you didn't grow up eating greens, sometimes you don't know where to put them. What do you do with them? By the way, you can also eat them just sauteed with onion and garlic alongside some scrambled eggs. They're great that way too. But today, I'm gonna show you a really fun way that you tuck them under the cheese of your pizza, and you can get lots of greens in just one tiny piece. So, what you'll need is a big old bundle of greens like these. I'm using Swiss chard today, and you can find this. It is so fresh and beautiful at our farmers markets right now. Head over to Oak Park Farmers Market or whatever market is close to you and pick up a batch of them. You can usually get a bundle like this for about $2 or $3. Super great deal and amazing for your health. So, and they taste phenomenal, especially when they're paired with pesto. So I'm going to show you what we do. So first, I've taken a whole wheat pizza dough crust, and you can find that recipe on our website at foodliteracycenter.org/recipes. And I par bake mine. So if you're baking along with me right now, get your oven preheated to 500 degrees. That's about as hot as any home oven will go, and that's a perfect temperature for cooking a homemade pizza. And then I actually par bake my crust. So I'll roll out my crust in the pizza pan, and then I'll shove it in my 500 degree oven for anywhere from 2 to 4, but no more than 4 minutes. And then it just gets par baked, so you can see that it's, you know, just beginning to cook, but it's a little bit undercooked, and it'll just make a crispier crust, and I like my pizza a little bit crispy, so that's why I do that. And then it also holds your toppings a little bit more stable, especially because we're going to be piling them on today. And so if you are a kid and you're cooking, make sure that you are working with an adult, because that 500 degree oven is very, very hot and needs to be paid close attention to throughout your cooking. So back to our greens. I am going to use my claw. Remember our claw? And I'm just going to cut off the tips of the greens. Tend to get a little bit dried from where they were harvested. So I just cut off the tiny ends of the tips of them, so that they're nice and fresh when the tip gets cut off. So we're still going to eat these stems. I just want to make sure they're not a little bit brown, because they were cut and harvested a few days ago. So back to our claw, and we're gonna eat these stems. So we want all of it. If this was kale, you would remove those stems. They're too chewy to eat. But chard, the stems are perfectly delicious, and we want to eat those. So I'm gonna use my claw. I'm gonna cut to the tips where the stems end. And then I'm just gonna keep going. I've kind of wrapped my hand around to keep a nice, keep control of my bundle of greens. And I'm just roughly chopping. You don't need any special cut or pattern. You're just sort of getting these into loose pieces. And really, truly, you could, chop like this, your big pile. There's no fancy cutting technique here to have to follow. So we are gonna cut a nice big pile of these, and it doesn't matter. So okay, we have our giant pile of greens. It's about the size of my cutting board, so I know it's gonna fit on there. And then we're gonna slather with pesto our dough. So I made this beautiful pesto from the basil in my garden. Again, you can get a big bundle of basil at the farmer's market right now for like $2. So healthy, so fresh. Here's some, you can find these also in the stores and at garden centers. So the whole place smells like pesto right now. It smells like basil. So I am gonna slather my pesto that I made. And last week we had a demo of carrot top pesto that tastes equally delicious on this pizza. And I just like to use my spatula and I spread it all around on that dough. Cover that dough. This is the flavor base for your pizza. You could also use a red sauce, whatever type of sauce you like. Put that on this pizza, but it is especially good. The greens, just the basil, all of it goes really well together. All right, so I've got my pesto base all over my pizza there. And now I am going to take those stems that I chopped. I'm gonna sprinkle those all around. And what's gonna happen is that these greens, they're gonna look like a big mountain on top of your pizza. But what's gonna happen is we're gonna put cheese over these. And as your pizza cooks and that cheese melts, it's going to form a nice layer that will lock in over your greens and it will steam them. So they will be cooked by the time you go to eat your pizza. And then the other fun part is that some of these will poke through the holes where there is no cheese, at the corners and sometimes in the center. And those parts of the greens will get crispy. If you've ever had a kale chip, there's just this nice crunch that these greens get. So you're gonna end up with a bunch of chewy bits that is really fun in your mouth, and then these little crispy bites. So that's why this pizza is particularly fun, because it has all the textures. And it's also a really fun science experiment for kids. So we have piled our greens, and this pile is actually going to shrink down considerably. So see how high that is standing? It's gonna shrink down a lot once we cook it because they're gonna start to steam. So I first take Parmesan cheese and I put a little layer of those. I like it because it's salty. You don't have to add any salt to your pizza recipe here. And it's a little bit nutty, so I like the flavor of Parmesan. So I'm gonna do just a thin base layer of Parmesan cheese, and then I'm gonna put my mozzarella cheese. And again, you do not have to cover every inch with cheese. In fact, the pizza is better if you leave some gaps. Just a lot more fun that way. So here we go. I've got my mozzarella, and I'm not putting it on every bit of it, if you can see that. And now, if I had red pepper flakes, I would put red pepper flakes. I don't have those right now. I have instead a spicy red pepper, but I put red pepper flakes on my pizza prior to baking it. I actually find that those really hard pieces that you chomp down on and it hurts your tooth, I like putting them on the pizza before it bakes because I find it softens them. And it also really infuses the pizza with a nice spicy flavor throughout and not just where the red pepper flake was dropped down. So I don't use the red pepper flake after, I put it on prior to cooking. But right now I'm gonna use a spicy red pepper because that's what I have and I'm real excited to have it. So that goes on. And then I also think that the pesto and the greens taste super delicious with red onion. These torpedo onions are also from the farmer's market. I got these from Route 64 at their farm stand, and I got a big bundle of them for $2, and they have the most amazing flavor. As soon as I cut into it, I can smell it. They're just a really special onion, and you only get them this time of year. So, and that's the fun thing about a farmer's market is that you can get foods there that you cannot find at the regular grocery store. And they're really special when you can find them. So I like to go and grab them while I can because in the blink of an eye, the season for these onions will be over. So we're gonna sprinkle onion all over the top of our pizza here. And that's basically our entire recipe. That's how easy it is. So I'm gonna put this one in the oven. you about your greens. So when you buy your greens, you will notice that, here we go. You see how this one is a bit floppy? Looks a little bit sad, but these guys, they're standing upright. They're standing really straight. So these are just really fresh and healthy because I only just bought them. But sometimes you don't get to your greens for a couple of days and you meant to cook them on Monday and now it's Thursday and they're just looking a little floppity. So what you can do is you can trim those bottoms off because the bottom edge is where the plant is gonna suck up water. So we cut the rough end off so that it's nice and fresh. And then put some cold water in a deep bowl and then stick your greens into that cold water. And they kind of drink, they drink the water and they perk back up. So that's a really easy, fun way that you can stretch your greens after you think that they've gone a little bit south. And the other thing that's important to note is even if you did have one that was a little bit floppy like this, you can still totally add it to this particular recipe because we're gonna be cooking them and steaming them down anyhow, and they haven't gone bad. They're not rotten, they're just sad. So you're totally fine to still eat those. So now, another pizza trick that I'm gonna share with you is with the basil. So basil is a very delicate herb, and if you were to put your basil on your pizza and then put it in the oven, it's just gonna shock it and you're gonna lose the flavor and it's not gonna be great. So I will prep my basil while my pizza is cooking, and then I sprinkle it over after my pizza's had a couple minutes to cool. So I like to stack all the leaves on top of each other, and then I roll them up in a little kind of tube shape. And then you just do a real fine chop using your claw, and you just chop them, and they will make this pretty ribbon that you can use to decorate. And another tip is when you're sprinkling it, sprinkle it from on high because it will sort of disperse a lot better. Otherwise you end up with like one big chunk in the center. So I'm gonna check our pizza. You'll cook your pizza at 500 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. You want the cheese to begin to bubble and maybe get a little bit brown in certain areas, but the main thing is that you want it to bubble a bit. Our pizza is super close, just another second or two. So another quick trick that you can use with this particular recipe, so I had my, my spring onion. These green onion parts, you could chop these, and when you put the chard or the greens down on top of your pesto, put these in with it. So then as you're eating the pizza, you're gonna get a bit of steamed green onion in with your greens, and that adds just another level of flavor for your pizza. And then you're not wasting any part of the delicious onion that you paid for. So here is our finished pizza. And you may notice it's a different pan because I might have cooked this one earlier. And I just pulled it out of the oven, because we did not just wait 12 minutes if you were paying attention. So, and I made it in a heart shape because I really love this pizza. It's delicious. So there you have it. Pesto and greens pizza. I hope that you guys will make this. I will not be cutting into this because I am going to give it away as a gift. It's Friday night and pizza night is for everyone. So one last little fun way to really notch up your pizza. Once it comes out of the oven, I like to slather it in a little bit of high quality extra virgin olive oil. It just makes it pop. So I very carefully drizzle just a little bit of that olive oil over the top. Then my basil gets sprinkled on. Oh, it smells amazing. It smells so good. All that fresh basil. Let me show you that again. It's a showstopper. thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you support your local farmers market. I hope you'll check out foodliteracycenter.org/recipes for all kinds of delicious farmers market fresh treats. Have a happy Friday.